we will go ahead and get ourselves called to order. Mr. Tobias, do we need one more to get started for voting? We do, okay. Take it back. We need one more person.
Looking at the agenda to do a head count.
Sorry, we need one more.
I mean, you could start, you just can't vote.
We can't vote.
You could discuss informally.
Here we go. Here's Reverend Tatum. All right, back on. I will now call the November 7th, 2023 Columbus Civilian Review Board meeting to order. And first on our agenda is the approval of minutes from the previous meeting. Hopefully everyone has had an opportunity to take a look at the previous minutes. Does anyone have any questions, additions, or subtractions from the meeting minutes as they're written?
Motion to approve.
May I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, motion carries. I will note for the record that Stephanie is not here. However, she is watching. So anything that we ask her to take notes of, she will be doing. She's just not present in the building with us. All right, now I'll turn it over to the Inspector General for an update.
Well, thank you so much. What I did is, if everyone sees, there's a sheet that I gave everyone that just as a brief update, just talks about overall view of complaints and investigation data. I just did a breakdown. I know that there's a very busy schedule, so if anyone has any questions, I'm available for questions, but I just thought giving you the handout would be really great.
Give everybody a moment to take a look. Does anyone have any questions for the IG?
Sure.
Yes, thank you. Thanks for this information. I'm just curious, do we have a breakdown anywhere of the number of complaints that were sustained?
I can provide that, so that would be involving the reports
Yeah.
that we actually was approved. Yes, I can get that for you. And what I can do, if the board wants, I can get that information and send it out to you in an email. That's okay.
Yeah, that would be great. I'd love to see what percentage of the complaints actually were sustained, you know.
Not a problem. And I do know that the last meeting, I did a breakdown because I know there was a question that the board had asked regarding the number of reports that were completed, what was the total versus how CPD was looking at the reports and how the board was looking at the report. So I believe I did give that to you, and I'll make sure that I send that back out again, because I know that was a question that was prior answered, so I just want to kind of refresh your memories, and I'll send that out too.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right. Turning it over then, as promised last meeting, to review team number 3 so that they can complete the cases they had from last month.
All right. We begin with case number 2023-560. And the facts. On May 4th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the DIG's office alleging excessive force by a CPD officer. The complainant alleged that on April 28th, she was pink-slipped and taken to OSU Harding Hospital. She stated that she sustained bruising on her wrist from excessive force being used while taken into custody by the officer, even though she was not being violent, mean, harsh, or harming them in any way. The DIG reviewed BWC for both focus officers and 2 witness officers regarding the allegation. Additionally, they reviewed video footage regarding the complainant being transported to Harding Hospital. The investigation found no evidence to support the complainant's allegation that she sustained bruising on her wrist from excessive force being used while taken into custody by these officers. Therefore, the DIG recommended that this allegation be closed as unfounded. The conclusion, the complainant alleged, the allegation was that she, just 1 second, okay. She alleged that she sustained bruising on wrist from excessive force while being taken into custody. There was no evidence to substantiate that there was any evidence to such, physical or otherwise. Therefore, the recommendation was that it be closed as unfounded. Our subcommittee reviewed all the facts. We concurred in this finding. At this time, we move to accept the finding of the IG of the Department of the Inspector General as to case number 2023-0560.
All right, any other questions or discussion? All right, go ahead.
Okay. The next case is 2023-0603, and on May 17th, 2023, the DIG received a complaint of misconduct via their hotline. The complainant alleged an officer questioned his children at school without a court order. After a review of the evidence obtained, the investigation found no evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed as exonerated. In the summary, it was stated unfounded, but that was corrected. That's irrelevant. All right, so in this particular situation, the allegation was that the officer questioned his children at their school without a court order. The DIG recommended that it be closed as exonerated. There is no court order is needed to interview children at a school. So that's why, since it's exonerated, because yes, it happened, but there was no violation. Our subcommittee reviewed this, we concur. So at this point, we move to accept the finding of the DIG as to case number 2023-0603.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
And then number 3, okay, 2023-0604. On May 17th, 2023, the DIG received a complaint of misconduct. The complainant alleged that the police officer was extremely annoyed and did not want to deal with her situation involving her neighbor. She claims that the police officers shared her information with the neighbor that she was having the disagreement with, which resulted in her neighbor requesting information, filling out forms, and signing her up for things. After a review of the BWC of the focus officers, the investigation found no evidence that substantiated the allegation that the officer was extremely annoyed and did not want to deal with her situation involving her neighbor. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed as unfounded. After a review of the BWC and the interview of the complainant and reviewing police policies and procedure as it pertained to this particular allegation, the officer provided the complainant's neighbor her information. The investigation confirmed this allegation did not take place. However, the actions of the officers were supported by police policy. Therefore, it is recommended that it be exonerated. There were 2 officers. First officer, the complainant alleged that Officer J acted extremely annoyed and did not want to deal with the situation. Based on the BWC and the review, there was no evidence of this, so first officer is unfounded. As to the second officer, the investigation found evidence that the alleged incident happened. However, the actions of the officer were supported by CPD policies and procedures. They were allowed to share certain information. Therefore, it is exonerated as to the finding. We discussed this and provided info. Let's see here. The officer provided info to both so that they could get protection orders against each other. So the officer provided information to both of them as to what they were allowed to provide, so in order that they could proceed and get protection orders. We reviewed this as a committee, and we did accept the findings of the Department of the Inspector General as to both allegations 1 and 2. So at this time, we do move to accept the findings of the DIG as to case number 2023-0604.
Okay, we've got a motion. Do we have a second? Any questions or discussion?
Case number 2023-0631. On May 16, 2023, the DIG received a complaint of misconduct. The complainant alleged that Columbus police officers failed to do their jobs and that they mocked her. The complainant stated she saw a child being physically abused and that the police officers did not do enough in gathering the information of the individual she saw abuse the child. And when explaining to the police officers, they did not do enough. And when explaining it to the police officers, they did not do enough, and the police officers then ended up mocking her. After a review of the BWC of the focus officers, the investigation found no evidence that substantiated the allegation that the police officers did not do their job in investigating physical abuse. It is recommended that this allegation be closed as unfounded. Two allegations. The first allegation was that officers P and S failed to do their job in investigating child abuse. Based on the review and the evidence obtained, the DIG found no evidence. It is recommended that the first allegation be unfounded, and then as to the second allegation, that as to the mocking, they found no evidence that she had been mocked from the BWC, so it is recommended that this allegation be closed with a finding of unfounded. Our review committee concurred with this finding, and we move at this time to accept the findings of the DIG as to both allegations 1 and 2 as to case number 2023-0631.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Your turn.
This is case number 2023-0641. On May 17, 2023, the Columbus Department of the Inspector General received a complaint of police misconduct via the Columbus DIG hotline. The complainant alleged officers came to his residence to serve a warrant he had already taken care of. The Columbus DIG's investigation consisted of a review of evidence, including body-worn camera, computer-aided dispatch, unit history, a statement from the complainant, and an interview with the officer. The investigation revealed the officers did go to the complainant's home to search for him. However, the complainant was not home, and the officers were notified by a woman through a Ring doorbell camera system the warrant had been taken care of. Therefore, the officers did not serve the complainant a warrant as the action was not completed. It is recommended that this allegation is closed with the finding of unfounded. The investigation did reveal, pursuant to Columbus Division of Police Policy and Procedures, officers should have verified arrest warrants prior to going to the complainant's residence. Therefore, it is recommended that this DIG allegation is closed with a finding of sustained. As to allegation 1, the complainant alleged officers came to his residence to serve a warrant he had already taken care of. The investigation revealed the officer, along with the training unit, went to the complainant's home. However, contact was only made with the woman via a Ring doorbell camera system, and once the officers were informed a warrant had been taken care of, the officers left the home. The officers never made contact with the complainant during this encounter. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed with a finding of unfounded. Allegation number 2, the investigation did reveal officers did not follow procedure and policy to check if the complainant had an active warrant. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed with a finding of sustained. Our committee reviewed and agreed with the Inspector General's findings, and I move as to allegation 1 that it be closed with unfounded, and allegation 2 with a motion of sustained.
Any seconds?
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
On May 19, 2023, the Columbus Department of Inspector General received a complaint of police misconduct via the Columbus DIG hotline. The complainant alleged her mother's vehicle was stolen on May 18, 2023. However, later that day, it was found. When officers came back to help recover the vehicle, one officer was willing to help the complainant move the vehicle. The other officer was not. The other officer stated that they could not help move the vehicle, as officers could only have the vehicle towed, or the complainant could move it herself, as their only duty was to update the report. The Columbus DIG's investigation consisted of a review of the body-worn camera, computer-aided dispatch, and unit history. The investigation revealed the officers responded and provided assistance to the complainant in accordance to Columbus Division of Police policy and procedures. Therefore, it is recommended that this complaint be closed with the finding of exonerated.
Can you state the case number on the record?
Yes, it's 0230649.
Thank you.
Allegation 1. The complainant alleged her mother's vehicle was stolen on May 18, 2023, but found later that day. When officers came to help recover the vehicle, while one officer was willing to help the complainant move the vehicle, the other officer was not. The other officer stated that they could not help move the vehicle, as officers could only have the vehicle towed, or the complainant could move it herself, as their only duty was to update the report. The investigation revealed the officers assisted the complainant in recovering the vehicle, returning it to the owner, and with the vehicle being parked safely, not in the way of blocking traffic, the officers were not required to assist in moving the vehicle. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed with the finding of exonerated, as the officers' actions were in accordance with CBT policy and procedure. Our review committee concurs with the Inspector General's investigation, and I move that the allegation be exonerated.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Case number 2023-0670. On May 24, 2023, the Columbus Department of the Inspector General received a complaint of police misconduct via the Columbus DIG hotline. The complainant stated on May 24, 2023, at 7:59 a.m. between 270 and Hilliard, his wife was in traffic. An officer directing traffic around lane markers yelled, "Do not go the fuck around," a police officer. Then approached his wife stating, "Just go the fuck around." The Columbus DIG investigation consisted of a review of evidence, including body-worn camera, computer-aided dispatch unit history, a statement from the complainant, and an interview with the officer. The investigation revealed the officer was responding to an obstruction in the street, as there was debris on the freeway. As the officer stopped his vehicle to get out and clear the debris, multiple cars continued to go around the officer as he attempted to exit his vehicle. The officer did approach one of the vehicles. He managed to stop and yelled expletives at this individual for attempting to drive around the officer and the obstruction. It is against Columbus Police Division policy and procedures for an officer to use profanity. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation is closed with a finding of sustained. As to the allegation, the complainant alleged on May 24, 2023, it's at 7:59 a.m., between 270 Hilliard, his wife was in traffic, and an officer directed directing traffic around lane markers, yelled, "Do not go the fuck around," a police officer, then approached his wife saying, "Just go the fuck around." The officer did approach one of the vehicles. He managed to stop and yell expletives at this individual for attempting to drive around the officer and the obstruction. It is against CPD policy and procedures for an officer to use profanity. Therefore, it is recommended this allegation is closed with a finding of sustained. Our review committee agrees with the Inspector General's findings, and I move the allegation be closed with a finding of sustained.
Any questions or discussion? Okay,
That's the last one I got.
that's the last one you have? Okay.
Yeah.
So we have open motions on case number 2023-0560, 2023-0603, 2023-0604, 2023-0631, 2023-0641, 2023-0649, and 2023-0670. All in favor of accepting those recommendations in those motions, please raise your hands or say aye if you're accepting. Does anyone oppose any of those motions as proposed? Nope. Any abstentions on any of those? All right, each of those motions will carry. We'll note for the record that case numbers 2023-0725 and 2023-0729 will still remain on the calendar for our December meeting. I'm assuming that Board Member McIntosh has those. Great. All right, thank you. Subcommittee 1, is that accurate, that -22-0441? Okay, I didn't.
Record of that.
Okay, I didn't think that looked like one of Committee 1's numbers. All right, I'll make a quick note here.
Madam Chair, while you're doing that, may I ask a question of the IG
Sure.
in reference to the number of cases that you guys investigate where profanity is being used by police officers at citizens, and we do sustain a lot of those. Is there any kind of a gauge as to whether the chief takes those things seriously or not? Whether it's just something that's so frivolous, that they just blow it off?
Well, to answer your question, the best way for me to be able to answer that is I know that we have sustained several of these, and we're still in the process of looking to see when we sustained it, what type of disciplinary actions was taken, because it still has to go through the chain of command. I do know of at least 1 or 2 cases that we have sustained, that there was some disciplinary action taken. So I am monitoring everything as things come back, and then that would be the best way for me to be able to answer your question, is just to look at that and just be able to tell you where we are with that.
I appreciate that.
Okay, I did just hear from Stephanie. Board Member Ford, did your subcommittee give you any further instruction? It looks like 0441 is actually Team 2's case.
I don't have that one here.
Okay,
No, they
no
didn't.
problem. We'll group it with the other 2 from Board Member McIntosh for next time. All right, that takes care of all the outstanding cases except for those 3 just mentioned. Now we'll turn to October cases. We'll turn it over to, well, actually, let's see. Team 3, do you all still have the numbers that are listed there to review today? Okay, because I did promise Team 3 you all would go. I'll turn it back to you all.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for keeping your word.
You're welcome.
You want to start? You're 373. I can start if you like.
Go ahead.
Okay. All right, case number 2023-1071. On July 27th, 2023, the complainant filed with the Department of the Inspector General alleging misconduct by CPD. The complainant alleges that the incident occurred on July 26th when the officer initiated a contact with a minor, male African-American teen in the Hilltop. The complainant alleges that the officer, while in his cruiser, harassed her minor teen son while he was walking home, from the corner store. The BWC footage from the officer is in the footage. He is seen continually trying to ascertain the teen's name, and the teen declining to provide this officer with the information. The officer continues to suggest that the teen looks familiar and continues to ask him his name. The officer then says, "I've been doing this job longer than you've been alive, and I know what people look like when they're suspicious." The involved officer was interviewed by the DIG, and the officer stated that the teen's appearance appeared to be suspicious because he was wearing a hoodie. He felt the weather was hot, and the teen was looking over his shoulder at him in the cruiser. Also, the officer confirmed that the teen was not linked to any criminal activity that he was investigating in the area, and the teen was not engaged in any criminal activity. The officer tells the teen he is just doing his job, and the teen walks home. As the teen is walking home, the teen starts recording on his cell phone this encounter with the officer. Before the teen walks into his residence, the officer yells to the teen, "See you later, Logan," from his cruiser. The teen then accuses the officer of harassing him, and the officer tells the teen he was just being friendly. The DIG's investigation consisted of review of the focus officer's BWC, the cell footage from the teen, and a review of the directives. The DIG concluded that the officer did indeed harass the minor teen by bias-based profiling. Specifically, the officer failed to treat the victim impartially throughout the interaction. The officer admitted that the teen was not linked to any criminal activity that he was investigating. The teen was not engaged in any criminal activity. The officer stated the teen appeared to be suspicious because he was, one, wearing a hoodie, and he believed that the weather was too hot for this hoodie, and number two, the teen was looking over his shoulder. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegation against this officer be closed as sustained, as there is sufficient evidence that the officer was harassing this teen while walking home, and he failed to treat him impartially in violation of CPD directives. Additionally, the Columbus DIG finds the officer's actions and articulated reasons for initiating and interacting with the teen were bias profiling, this being in violation of CPD Directive 3.07, bias-based profiling. Therefore, it is recommended a finding of sustained as to the officer's actions being in violation of CPD directives. So, conclusion, two allegations. One is Officer S, based on allegation by the complainant that he was harassing her son. It is recommended that this be sustained. And then allegation, our review committee reviewed that particular allegation. We agree with that. And as to that particular allegation, we move that that allegation be accepted as sustained for case number 2023-1071. And then there's a subsequent allegation that was brought by the Department of the Inspector General as to Officer S. He failed to treat the victim impartially on July 26, 2023. Based on the way that he was treated, he was failed to be treated impartially. It is recommended that this allegation be sustained. Our review committee also agrees with this. So we move at this time to accept allegation number 2 of the DIG as to 2023-1071.
Okay, first calling on the initial motion on 2023-1071. Got a motion on the floor. Do I have a second? Any questions or discussion?
I just wondered what the... is there I'm sure there is. What's the CPD definition of harassment?
Oh, let's see here. Let's see if we have that. I do not have the directive that defines harassment. Inspector, do you happen to have that available?
I'm looking, let me
Okay.
see, I usually, say that again.
I'm looking on this thing, too.
We'll look it up if that's okay, and we can provide that for you before the end.
I'm still looking here. I'm thinking hopefully.
So I've got a highlighted
You know what?
outstanding question on that first motion.
Scott has the policy pulled up because the policy we're looking at,
Great.
it talks about the work rules, so he can read the policy to you to let you know what we were
All right.
basing it on.
Yeah, the policy we were looking at just essentially says, was a person stopped or was a person singled out in any particular fashion by that person based on race, sex, sexual orientation, gender identity or expression, color, religion, ancestry, national origin, age, disability, family or military status, or any other status that's protected by federal, state, or local law or ordinance. And the entirety of the policy is 3.07, bias-based policing.
Wouldn't that fall under the second allegation?
Was that the one that you were, I'm sorry, you were
No,
referring
I'm not
to-
asking about bias-based policing, I'm asking about harassment.
So just following up, so what I would say is, when we get complaints based on what the complainant is describing, the actions that occurred. And so what we do is we look at the actions that the complainant is saying, and we look at those and make a determination as to what they're explaining is the allegation, and we find out whether or not the officer violated a policy and procedure. And so in this, the person is alleging that the actions that the officer take, they felt to be harassing. What we did is we looked at what the officer did, and the actions he took was, in our definition, it was bias policing, simply because he didn't have any grounds for his articulating as to why he followed the plaintiff, why he stopped them, and his continuously asking him questions. So I hope that answers your question. So what we did is I know that you're asking us to give you a definition of harassment, but what we're telling you is the sustaining of the policy violation that we use to state that the officer violated policy and procedure was based on a CPD directive.
And if I may add, we're looking in the Division Directives Manual from which that policy was taken. They do have a definition section in the back of that. However, the definition for harassment is not defined back here.
Yeah, I mean, this is biased, seems really evident, at least in the description that he didn't have a foundation for pursuing this minor. I was just wondering what the definition of harassment was. Well, because we have two allegations, and I'm just wondering what is the distinction that we're drawing here?
Yeah, normally, there's certain places you would look for a definition, but if you can't find one, you just go with a basic dictionary definition. General use.
Yeah, in the legal profession, if you didn't have it defined in the code, in the section for definitions, you went to Black's Law Dictionary, you went to a dictionary. So in our committee looked at the entirety of the circumstances, and you have a teenager who is followed, and he's wearing a hoodie, And the only thing that the officer can articulate is that it was too hot for this hoodie, in his opinion.
Yeah.
There was no criminal activity afoot.
Right.
There was nothing that he could tell. But the worst thing was when he got to his home, he called him Logan. I mean, it was total harassment by any I think by any definition.
Yeah, my understanding too is that
You know.
they weren't sustaining that he was in violation or guilty of harassment. They were sustaining that it was in violation of a specific policy
Yeah.
based on his behavior.
I'm not hearing it at all. I'm hearing the bias. I'm not hearing a foundation for harassment. What I'd like to recommend is that there be an addition to CPD policy, because this sort of thing probably happens more than this case. And so if that is, the case that we have harassment, there ought to be a definition of.
I'm going to just speculate, and Ms. Ross will correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say that if they're engaged in harassment, they're probably in violation of some other policy already. Yeah, and, I'm not intimately familiar with the rulemaking process, layers involved with
Sure.
doing that.
Absolutely.
I'm sure that's a collective bargain item.
Right.
So right now, we've got two separate motions on the floor because the IG added an allegation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So, just so I'm clear, initially, the youth's mother alleged harassment kind of as a broad general term, which the IG is sustaining, but also specifically finds that the officer's behavior was a result of biased policing.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we have a first and second, at least on the first, on the violation of policy on grounds of harassment. We also have a motion waiting for a second on the, thank you, second allegation. Any questions or discussion about the biased policing in the second allegation? Okay.
Case number 2023-1075. On July 27th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with with DIG, alleged misconduct by a CPD officer. The complainant alleged that the officer in question was talking to her in a way that was rude and accusatory. The DIG's investigation consisted of BWC, the officer, an interview of the police officer, and a review of the Columbus Department directives. The investigation found evidence of misconduct by the officer that substantiated the allegation from the complainant. The officer in question appeared to be rude to the complainant in their interaction when the officer stated, "Give me a reason to take your ass to jail." Additionally, there was no evidence that the officer was talking to the complainant in a way that was accusatory. Therefore, it is recommended that the one of rudeness be closed as sustained, but the one of being accusatory be closed as unfounded. So we have two allegations here. Allegation number one, Officer S was rude based on the information and evidence obtained. The DIG found evidence that the officer was rude. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation against Officer S be closed with a finding of sustained. As to allegation number two, based on the information obtained that the officer spoke to her in an accusatory manner, there is no evidence that there was any accusation at all. So this allegation is recommended that this be closed as unfounded. Our review committee concurs, and we move to accept the findings of the DIG, of the Inspector General, as to allegations number one and number two.
It's been moved. May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All right.
Okay. 2023-1092. On July 31, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the DIG alleged misconduct by Columbus Police. The complainant alleged that the incident occurred on July 31 when the complainant called to make a report of an illegally parked vehicle outside of her residence. The complainant alleged that the officer drove past the illegally parked vehicle, did not stop, just continued past the vehicle without doing anything about this illegally parked vehicle. The DIG investigation consisted of review of cruiser, GPS data, CAD, photos of the illegally parked vehicle, and a statement from the officer. The investigation found that the officer in question failed to issue a citation for the illegally parked vehicle. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegations against this officer be closed as sustained, as there is evidence sufficient that the officer should have issued a citation for this illegally parked vehicle. All right. Allegation, there's only one allegation. The complainant alleged that Officer H failed to issue a parking citation for an illegally parked vehicle. Based on the information and evidence obtained, the DIG recommends that this officer, that the allegation against this officer be closed as sustained. He should have issued a citation for this illegally parked vehicle on Brady Drive on July 31st, 2023. Our review committee concurs. We move at this time that the allegation, that the finding by the DIG be accepted as to case number 2023-1092.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Case number 2023-1143. On August 8th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint alleging misconduct. The complainant alleged that the incident occurred when her vehicle was impounded when her boyfriend was driving the vehicle. The complainant stated the officer said the car was impounded because her boyfriend was being an asshole. The investigation consisted of review of the BWC, review of police directives, and a review of the city code for impounding. The investigation found no evidence of misconduct by the officers. The officer never referred to her boyfriend as an asshole, and the vehicle being impounded was within Columbus Police policy and procedure. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed as unfounded. As to the allegation, based on all the information, based on all the evidence reviewed, let's see, the word was never used by the officers. Additionally, it appears the officers was within the City of Columbus policy and procedure when the officer impounded the complainant's vehicle. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegation be closed as unfounded. Our review committee concurs, and we move that the finding of the DIG be accepted as the case number 2023-1143.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
And finally, on August 16th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint alleging police misconduct and unbecoming conduct. The complainant was not present when this incident occurred. The complainant stated she was advised by her daughter that CPD officers on August 11th, 2023, conducted a traffic stop involving her and her boyfriend because the car was being the car that they were driving had been reported stolen. The complainant believes the stop was racially motivated, as her daughter is black and her boyfriend is white. The complainant stated that both individuals were handcuffed, and officers asked her daughter if she was with the guy for money or services. The investigation consisted of BWC review, computer CAD review, event chronology report, and an interview of the complainant. The victim declined to be interviewed by the Columbus DIG investigator. The DIG determined that the allegations did not occur as they were conveyed. Therefore, the DIG determined that allegation number 1 is unfounded as a traffic stop. because there was no traffic stop. The officers were responding to a suspicious person in a car that was parked in a school parking lot. The Columbus DIG determined that allegation number 2 is exonerated, as the officer asking the question was part of the investigation into the incident, and it was within CPD policy and procedure. So, all right. So as to allegation number 1, officers B and R conducted a that the traffic stop had been conducted. The investigation revealed the complainant was not, wait a minute, I'm not going to repeat myself. Okay, so the officers responded to a suspicious person in a car that was parked in a school parking lot. No traffic stop conducted. The actions taken by the officers supported CPD policy and procedure. Based on this information, there's a recommendation of unfounded. As to allegation number 2, as to only one officer, the complainant alleged that this particular officer asked her daughter if she was with the guy for money or services. The investigation revealed that after the officers removed the couple from the vehicle and observing what they were doing inside the vehicle as well as what they were wearing, the officers did ask the victim if there was an exchange of money for services. The victim then admitted to the officers that she was in a relationship with this male and that they were just making out. Based on the information and evidence obtained, the Columbus DIG recommends that this allegation against officers be closed with a finding of exonerated, as the officer's line of question was in relation to the investigation and did not violate policy and procedure. Our review committee concurs. We move to accept the finding of the Department of the Inspector General as to case number 2023-1185.
We've got a motion on the floor. Any seconds?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Case number 2023-0833. On June 23, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the City of Columbus Department of the Inspector General alleging police misconduct by Columbus police officers. The complainant alleged that during a car accident on the morning of June 22, 2023, an officer came running over and rudely yelled at her to get off the road. The complainant explained that she had 3 infant children in the car. She stated that she told the officer to ask her nicely to get back in the car. She added that he provided her with information card and exchanged information with the other driver. She did not get a report number, which she thought would have included the officer's name, badge number, and date. The investigation consisted of a review of the body-worn camera, the computerized aided dispatch report, and CPD policy and procedures. The investigation revealed the officer approached the complainant because the complainant was getting out of her vehicle during very heavy traffic on the freeway, and he was advising her to get off the road before she gets hurt. The officer's voice was elevated due to the traffic noise from the freeway. After the complainant got back into her vehicle, the officer instructed the complainant to move her vehicle to the berm, and she was asked to do so on 2 occasions so she would not cause someone to get killed. The complainant complied with the officer's instruction and was seen yelling at the officer in a confrontational manner. The complainant attempted to exit her vehicle a second time, and the officer began to explain to her the dangers of being out of her car. The footage did not reveal the officer being rude or using any profanity towards the complainant. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed as unfounded. Further review of the footage revealed the officer then completed steps required for a minor accident and provided each driver with the exchange of identification forms and followed CPD policies and procedures. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegation 2 be closed as unfounded. As to allegation 1, the complainant alleged that officer yelled, screamed, and cursed at her with her 3 infant grandchildren in the car. Based on the information and evidence obtained and reviewed, the Columbus DIG recommends the allegation against the officer be closed with the finding unfounded. The officer was in the process of clearing another accident that resulted in serious injuries when the complainant exited her vehicle in the middle of the freeway during heavy traffic, endangering herself and others, resulting in the officers instructing her to get off the road. There was no violation of CPD policy and procedures. As to allegation 2, the complainant alleged that officer did not provide her a report number, officer name or badge number, date, or anything. Based on the information and the evidence obtained and reviewed, the Columbus DIG recommends that the allegation against the officer be closed with a finding of unfounded. Officer did in fact provide both drivers, include with accident exchange information cards completed with information needed to file an insurance claim. He advised that she can go online, complete the process, and obtain an incident number. The officer did not violate any CPD policies and procedures pertaining to the investigation of the accident involving the complainant. Our review committee reviewed, and we concur with the Inspector General's investigation that allegation 1 be closed as unfounded and allegation 2 be closed as unfounded, and I move to concur with the report.
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Complaint number 20230865. On June 27, 2023, the Columbus Department of the Inspector General received a complaint of misconduct. The complainant was in a car accident on an earlier date, and the complainant alleged a police officer treated him unfairly and questioned his integrity by telling him that the injuries he claimed could not have come from the accident. After a review of the body-worn camera of the focus officer, an interview with the complainant, and a review of police policy and procedures as it pertains to the allegation the officer treated him unfairly, the investigation found no evidence of misconduct by the officer that substantiated the allegation. Therefore, it is recommended this allegation be closed as unfounded. As it pertains to the allegation that the officer questioned the complaint's integrity, telling him that the injuries he claimed could not have come from the accident, the investigation found no evidence of misconduct by the officer that sustained the allegation. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed as unfounded. As to allegation 1, the complainant was in a car accident and alleged the officer treated him unfairly based on the information and evidence obtained. The investigation found no evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation. Therefore, it is recommended this allegation against the officer be closed with the finding of unfounded. As to allegation 2, the complainant stated officer questioned his integrity by telling him that injuries he claimed he could not have come from the accident. Based on the information and evidence obtained, the investigation found no evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation against the officer be closed with the finding unfounded. Our review committee concurs with the Inspector General's investigation as to allegation 1 and allegation 2 be closed with the finding unfounded, and I move.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Case number 20230907. On July 5th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the City of Columbus Department of the Inspector General, alleging misconduct by a Columbus police officer. Complainant alleges the officer in question failed to respond and take a report of a hit-skip accident that the officer was dispatched to on July 3rd, 2023. The Columbus DIG's investigation consisted of cruiser GPS data, computer-aided dispatch, body-worn camera footage, officer interview, and review of Columbus Police Department directives. The investigation revealed the officer failed to respond to the dispatch hit-and-skip accident and take appropriate action if applicable. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed as sustained. Additionally, during the course of the investigation, the Columbus DIG learned that the officer was handling personal phone calls rather than attending to his duties as an officer. Therefore, the Columbus DIG recommends a finding of sustained as the officer's action violated CPD policies. I'll miss a page. Our committee has reviewed and concurs with the Inspector General's investigation, and I move that both allegations be sustained.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
Complaint number 2023-0936. On July 7th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the City of Columbus Department of the Inspector General, alleging police misconduct, action taken, not taken by Columbus police officers. The complainant alleged that officers did not file a police report or accident report regarding a motor vehicle accident she was involved in on April 23rd, 2023. The investigation consisted of a review of the body-worn camera footage, computerized aided dispatch, event chronology report, and an interview with CPD officers. The body-worn camera footage revealed that one vehicle involved in the car accident would not start and had to be pushed out of traffic. The other vehicle was driven out of the way but was not able to be driven safely off the road. Airbags have been deployed in both vehicles and no one was ticketed for the accident. The Columbus DIG conducted interviews with both officers, which revealed the officers assisted with moving the cars out of the road to prevent further obstruction of traffic. CPD officers stated there were no injuries and that there were no questions asked from either driver regarding the process. The officers did, however, fail to provide a report number as required by CPD policy and procedures due to the disabled vehicle that had to be moved out of the roadway. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegation in this complaint be closed with a finding of sustained. As to allegation 1, the complainant alleged that officers did not file a police report or accident report regarding a motor vehicle in the accident she was involved in on 2023. That was sustained by the Inspector General. Our committee reviewed and concurs, and we concur with the Inspector General's investigation. I move.
Any seconds? Any questions or discussion? Okay.
We're missing one, bro.
Okay, so case number 2023-0393, we will reserve for the December meeting. All right, we've got current motions on the floor for case number 2023-1071, 2023-1075, 2023-1092, 2023-1143, 2023-1185, 2023-0833, 2023-0865, 2023-0907, 2023-0936. I'll call for yea votes first. All in favor of yeas on each of those, please raise your hand. Any opposition on any? And no abstentions. All those motions carry. Thank you, Team 3. All right, now turning to Pastor Nathan for the October case assignments.
So this is 2023-469. This is a claim of police misconduct due to racial discrimination. A police officer pulled over a car. The complainant suggests that he was pulled over because the police officer saw him and noticed his race. The officer pulled him over because the windows were very dark He pulled in back of the car first and checked the plates. The plates did not match the car, rather they were registered to a truck. He could not see the driver because of the dark windows, and he did not know the driver's race. There was no evidence of discrimination. The IG found that the allegation of discrimination was unfounded, and we concurred. So we move in case number 2023-0469 to accept the IG's finding of unfounded.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
This is case 2023-0479. Police entered an apartment because of a report of a shooting there. The complainant alleges that she was put in handcuffs, a gun was pointed at her and her granddaughter, and that the apartment was searched. A review of the body-worn camera discovered that the complainant was never put in handcuffs, that no gun was pointed at her or her granddaughter, and no search was made of the apartment. However, there was a sweep of the apartment for possible victims or weapons. So regarding the allegation that she was put in handcuffs, the IG concluded that allegation was unfounded. Regarding the gun being pointed at her or her granddaughter, the IG also found that, concluded that was unfounded. And regarding the search, there was a sweep but no search, and so the officer, according to the IG, was exonerated. We concurred with the IG's findings, and so we move in case number 2023-0479 to accept the IG's findings of unfounded on allegation 1, unfounded on allegation 2, and exonerated on allegation 3.
There's a motion. May I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
This is case number 2023-0596. The complaint arose as a result of a fight between a 17-year-old complainant and a 30-year-old at a bus stop. Columbus police broke up the fight, and the complainant alleged injuries caused by the police. The complainant admitted drinking before the fight, fighting, slipping out of handcuffs, kicking the back seat of the squad car, screaming and fighting with the officers. She also admitted that she refused to comply with the CPD. Regarding allegation 1, she alleged that the use of force was excessive. The IG found that the use of force was appropriate in dealing with a non-compliant complainant, and concluded regarding allegation 1 that the officer should be exonerated. But we found, the IG found 2 grounds for sustaining allegations against the officer. Number 1, that another officer used profanity, and so regarding that allegation, the IG concluded that that behavior was sustained as to unprofessional conduct. And second, that the first officer failed to file a timely use of force report. And so regarding the timeliness of the filing of the use of force report, they sustained that allegation. So we concur with the IG's findings, and in case number 2023-0596, we move to accept the finding of exoneration regarding the use of force, but sustained regarding an officer's use of profanity as unprofessional conduct, and sustained regarding the failure to file a timely use of force report.
So just a clarification question. The two sustains, were those
Those were
added
raised by
on?
the IG.
Okay,
Those
added on.
were added on by the IG.
Okay, so taking first, Pastor Nathan has a motion on the floor to adopt the exonerated finding for the original allegation in case number 2023-0596. May I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or discussion on that? Okay. Then separately, the subcommittee recommended and has moved to accept the IG's additional recommendations of sustained on the two added allegations regarding profanity and the failure to file a timely use of force report. May I have a second on that?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Case number 2023-0635, the complainant alleged that the CPD brought her intoxicated grandnephew to her residence, opened the door without knocking, and dropped the grandnephew off. After an investigation, the IG found there was no evidence that the officers knew this grandnephew was intoxicated, nor did they open her apartment door, but rather left the grandnephew at the complex. He then made his way to her apartment. So as with respect to the allegation of police misconduct, the IG concluded that that allegation was unfounded. We concurred. So with respect to case number 2023-0635, I move to accept the IG's findings of unfounded regarding the allegation of police misconduct. This is case 2023-0643. The complainant alleges a woman who was out of her mind suddenly entered her home. The complainant called 911, but the officers never came. The officers got a dispatch saying that the complainant did not want to be contacted, and there was a statement of no contact given by the dispatcher to the police officers. So the IG concluded with respect to the complaint of misconduct for an officer not responding to a 911 call that the officer was exonerated. We concurred with the IG's findings, so I move in case number 2023-0643 to accept the IG's finding of exoneration regarding the allegation of police misconduct.
There was a second by Dr. Jones. Any questions or discussion? Okay.
This is case number 2023-0646. The complainant alleged misconduct in that the officer allegedly was rude when he encountered them as they were attempting to take kids and a stroller up the escalator at Easton. This was a situation in which the officer was performing private contract work for Easton. There's no evidence that the officer was rude. The officer simply made the complainants aware of Easton's policy and that it was dangerous to try to move a child in a stroller up the escalator. The IG found regarding the allegation of police misconduct that this allegation was unfounded. We concur, and so I move in case number 2023-0646 to accept the IG's finding of unfounded regarding police misconduct.
May I have a second? Any questions or discussion? Okay.
This is case number 2023-0706. The complainant was on dialysis at a dialysis treatment facility. An officer came in and inquired about the patient because the complainant's dog was locked in a van. The claim is that the officer told the dialysis treatment facility to get the complainant off of dialysis in order to care for the dog. There's no evidence to sustain this. The complainant was actually unaware of whether the officer actually said this or not, and there's no evidence to sustain the allegation that the officer ordered the facility to get him off dialysis to care for the dog. So the IG concluded that with respect to a complaint of misconduct, that this complaint was unfounded. We concur. And so I move in case number 2023-0706 to accept the IG's finding of unfounded with respect to an allegation of police misconduct.
Any seconds?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions? Okay.
This is case number 2023-0708. This complaint arose because the officer arrested the complainant for violating a protective order. The complainant alleged that the officer did not have probable cause for arresting him for violating a protective order. The officer checked with the clerk of courts and found there was a protective order, and so the IG concluded that the allegation that the officer had no probable cause and therefore was engaged in misconduct was unfounded. We concur. And so I move in case number 2023-0708 to accept the IG's finding of unfounded with respect to a complaint of police misconduct.
Second.
Any questions or discussion?
And finally, in case number 2023-0713, the complainant wanted to recover a stolen ring from a pawn shop and not pay the fee. The officer involved asked the complainant whether they had any evidence that the ring was hers. The complainant was unable to produce any evidence, and therefore the officer did not provide her with a police report. He did tell her how she could retrieve the ring. He also called her sweetheart when he was speaking with her concerning the allegation that the officer was engaged in misconduct for not providing her with a police report. The officer was exonerated because he had no basis for giving her a police report since she was unable to provide him with evidence that the ring was hers. We concur with that finding. Second, the allegation that calling her sweetheart was some kind of violation. We concur with the Inspector General's finding that that did not violate any CPD policy or procedure, and therefore the officer ought to be exonerated for misconduct for calling the complainant sweetheart. And so I move in case number 2023-013 to accept the IG's finding of an exoneration regarding both allegations.
Second.
We've got a second. Any questions or discussion? Okay, we have got open motions on the floor in case number 2023-0469, 2023-0479, 2023-0596, 2023-0635, 2023, oh, let me back up. In addition, on 0596, we also have an additional allegation, 2 allegations of sustained, pending as well. Now, 2023-0635, 2023-0643, 2023-0646, 2023-0706, 2023-0708, and 2023-0713. Starting first with the ayes, all in favor of accepting those motions that they have been presented, please raise your hands. All right, any opposition? Any abstentions? All those motions carry. Thank you very much, Subcommittee 1. At this point, let's take a 10-minute break. Be back at 3:26.
Thank you. I don't know whether Stephanie sent that information.
Are back in session. I would like to take a minute and give a shout out and thanks to everyone who did show up for our last community town hall. We were at Good Shepherd at Reverend Tatum's church. So for those who are able to make it out to the next town hall, please watch the IG's website for announcements so that you can come out and hear from members of the IG's office, members of our board, and folks from the city attorney's office. All right, so we do have an update on case number 0441. We are still going to table that for our December meeting, but just as a reminder, this was a question that Subcommittee 2 was reviewing. Specifically, it was a question about use of force with pregnant complainants. So if everyone has the opportunity to go back and take a look, I do believe Stephanie sent the use of force policy out to everyone. So if everyone could take a look at that before the December meeting, that way the standing motion on 0441 hopefully can be voted on. All right, turning it over now to Team 2 for October case assignments.
Okay, this is case 2023-0719. On June 5th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the City of Columbus DIG alleging that his son was denied medical and police attention. The complainant alleged his son was shot in the arm by a pellet or a BB gun while riding a bicycle. He reported his son went home and the grandmother called the police. When the police arrived, they were told the son was shot with a pellet or BB gun. Also, the complainant stated that the police responded 3 hours after he made the initial call for service. The complainant allegation is regarding the 3-hour police response time, and he alleged no medical attention was provided. The investigation consists of a review of the body-worn camera footage, CAD video, which revealed the officers arrived shortly after being dispatched and being in compliance with Columbus Division of Police policy. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegation be closed as exonerated. Also, the footage revealed the officers asked on 2 separate occasions if the grandparent and stepmother, as well as the victim, needed a medic to be called, and both times they each stated no. Therefore, it's recommended the allegation that the police did not provide medical attention be closed as unfounded, as the actions of the officers within CPB policy. A conclusion, allegation 1, Officer B, the complainant alleged that Officer B and Officer S did not respond until 3 hours after he reported that his son was shot by a pellet or BB gun. Based on the information and evidence obtained by the CAD and BWC, the Columbus DIG found that no evidence to sustain this allegation. The officers were first dispatched at 10:53 p.m. and arrived at the complainant's home at 11 p.m. The officer tried to explain to the family that another shooting had occurred and took priority, this being the reason no officers were dispatched sooner. Therefore, it's recommended this allegation be closed, the finding exonerated against Officers B and Officer S. Allegation 2 against Officer B and Officer S, the complainant alleged that Officer B and Officer S did not provide medical assistance for his son. Based on the information and evidence obtained from the BWC, the Columbus DIG found no evidence to substantiate this allegation. Officer S asked on 2 separate occasions if a medic was needed to be called for the victim, each time the parties refused. The victim informed the officers that his grandmother had cleaned the wound and the pellet did not go through his skin. Therefore, it's recommended that this allegation be closed with a finding of unfounded against Officer B and Officer S, as the actions they took were within CPD policy. Our committee reviewed this, and we move to accept the findings of the DIG.
Any questions or discussion? All right.
Okay, this is complaint number 2023-0728. Summary: on June 5th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the City of Columbus DIG alleging misconduct by a CPD officer. The complainant alleged that he contacted police to report a vehicle blocking his driveway. The complainant explained he contacted CPD dispatch to get an estimated time of arrival for an officer and was advised by the dispatcher that a CPD officer came out at 8:04 p.m. and cleared the call. The complainant reported to the dispatcher no officer had made contact with him and the vehicle was still blocking his driveway. So another CPD officer responded and resolved the matter. The Columbus DIG submitted a request to the Emergency Communications Center to gather a call history, computer dispatch data, and the unit history on June 13th, 2023. A review of the body-worn camera footage of the focus officer revealed the officer responded to a call for service coded as a 10-6A. The officer approached from the alley or rear of the residence. The officer exited his cruiser, looked around the structure, then he leaves. It is unclear if the officer had full vision of the driveway, as he was not observed to walk around to the front of the structure at any time. A review of the CAD data revealed a second contact from the complainant, reporting the same car still blocking the driveway approximately an hour and a half later. So a second CPD unit was dispatched. A review of the BWC footage reveals the officers arriving in front of the residence, making contact with the owner of the brown Odyssey. The owner was not cited but moved to her vehicle promptly. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegation be closed as sustained, as the investigation found evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation, and the first CPD officers are not violated CPD policies, procedures, and law. Therefore, the conclusion: allegation 1, the complainant alleged a Columbus police officer came out to his residence and did not make contact with him, and the vehicle remained blocking his driveway. The CAD makes no reference to the obstructed driveway being a garage of any kind. The same information was listed in the next call for service, and CPD officers arrived in front of the residence and made contact with the owner. Therefore, the Columbus DIG recommends that the allegation against Officer P be closed with his finding sustained, as the officer found evidence, or as the investigation found evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation, and the officer's actions not taken violated CPD policies, procedures, and/or law. Our committee reviewed this report, and we move to accept the findings of the DIG.
Any seconds?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Okay, the next complaint is 2023-0742. On June 8th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the City of Columbus DIG. Complainant reported on June 8th, 2023, as a disabled person, the complainant was unable to utilize the handicapped parking spot at the Tim Hortons restaurant at 3737 South Hamilton Road due to a Columbus Division of Police vehicle number 93, being parked over the line with no disabled parking permit displayed. The complainant also attached a photo of the CPD vehicle number 93 with the complaint. The investigation consists of a review of the CPD Fleet Management Global Positioning System and the CPD Mobile Data Computer, photograph attached to the complaint, an evaluation of the metadata report of photograph image provided by the complainant, a DIG investigative field analysis, and the Columbus Division of Police policies and procedures. The evidence reviewed confirmed the complainant's allegation, the violation of CPD policy and procedures. Therefore, it is recommended this allegation against this officer be closed with a finding of sustained. Allegation number 1 against Officer G. The investigation found evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation that the CPD vehicle was parked in the marked handicapped parking spot on 7 a.m. on June 8th, 2023, and the actions taken violated CPD policies, procedures, and our law. Therefore, it's recommended the allegation become closed as sustained. Our committee reviewed the report, and we move to accept the findings of the DIG.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
This is complaint number 2023-0751. On June 9th, 2023, the Department of Inspector General received a complaint of police misconduct. The complainant alleged a police officer was working secondary employment while on a limited duty status with the Columbus Police Department. After a review of the evidence obtained, or an interview with the officer, and a review of CPD policy, the investigation revealed the following. The officer is a board member on the City of Pataskala Board of Zoning and Appeals and did attend board meetings in December of 2022 and April of 2023. The officer did receive a financial compensation for each meeting attended. The officer's actions are supported by CPD policy. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed and exonerated. The conclusion, allegation 1 against Officer C. CPD officer Officer C was working secondary employment while on a limited duty status with the CPD. Based on the information and evidence obtained, the Columbus DIG recommends that this allegation against Officer C be closed with a finding exonerated, as the investigation found evidence that the alleged activity did not violate CPD policies. Our committee reviewed this complaint, and we move for the accepting the findings.
Any second?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
Next is complaint number 2023-0759. On June 9th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the City of Columbus DIG alleging misconduct by a Columbus police officer. Specifically, the complainant alleged, number 1, she was in an accident on May 8th, 2023, and the responding Columbus police officer was not fair in her judgment of the accident. Number 2, she was not allowed to make a full statement at the scene. Number 3, the officer followed the other driver, or the officer allowed the other driver to leave without giving her any information. The Columbus DIG submitted a request to the Emergency Communications Center to gather call history, CAD data, unit history, and the Franklin County Municipal Court citation information on June 12, 2023. Review of the body-worn camera footage of the officer revealed the officer explained to the complainant why her left-hand turn into oncoming traffic was evidence of fault in this incident. Therefore, it is recommended that allegation B1 be founded as, or be closed as unfounded. Further review of the BWC revealed the officer separately obtained statements from both parties at the scene. The officer dealt with the injury first, then told the complainant she would be back to obtain her statement. Therefore, it is recommended that allegation 2 be closed as unfounded. Additional review of the body-worn camera revealed the officer provided both parties involved with incident number cards. The officer also advised the report would be submitted to assist both drivers with information relating to insurance matters. However, the officer did provide the exchange identification form U-20-104 to either party. The Columbus DIG recommends that allegation 3 be closed with a finding of sustained, as the investigation found evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation and the alleged incident violated CPD policies, procedures, and/or law. Conclusion, allegation number 1, Officer S. A review of the body-worn camera for Officer S shows the officer explaining to the complainant how her left-hand turn in oncoming traffic was evidence of fault in this incident. The officer provided the information to both parties and took separate statements. The investigation found no evidence to substantiate the complainant's allegation that the officer was not fair in her judgment. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation against Officer S be closed with a finding of unfounded. Also, the officer's actions were within CPD policy and procedures. Allegation number 2, the complainant alleged she was not allowed to make a full statement at the scene. A review of the body-worn camera revealed that Officer S separately obtained statements from both parties at the scene. The officer dealt with the injury first, then told the complainant she would be back to obtain her statement. Therefore, it is recommended this allegation be closed as unfounded. Also, the actions were within CPD policy and procedures. Lastly, allegation 3, the complainant alleged Officer S allowed the other driver to leave without giving her any information. A review of the Officer S's body-worn body camera revealed the officer provided both parties involved with the incident number cards and advised the report would be submitted to assist both drivers with information relating to insurance matters. However, Officer S did not provide the exchange of information form U-20.104 to either party. Therefore, the Columbus DIG recommends this allegation against Officer S be closed with a finding sustained, as this action did violate CPD policies, procedures, and/or law. And our committee reviewed this report as well and moved to accept the findings of the DIG.
Any seconds?
Second.
Any questions or discussion? Nope, okay.
Good. This is case number 2023-0762. On June 9th, 2023, the Department Inspector General received a complaint of policeman misconduct via the Columbus DIG hotline. The complainant alleged he was pulled over and informed by the officer he was stopped due to his license plate not being visible. However, the complainant complains that the license plate was clearly visible in his back window. Also, he alleged during the traffic stop he was pulled out of the car and the handcuffs were placed on him tightly. The complainant alleged after the incident he asked the officers for their names and badge numbers, but they did not provide him with their information. The Columbus DIG's investigation consists of a review of a body-worn camera, computer-aided dispatch history, unit history, interview with the complainant, and interviews with both officers. The investigation revealed that the officer in training pulled the complainant over due to his license plate not being visible. However, informed the complainant as she walked toward the car, she noticed the license plate had fallen over in the back window. As the complainant's plate was not visible from the officer's view on the cruiser, It is recommended this allegation is closed, the finding of exonerated for the officer in training. Also, the investigation revealed the complainant was not pulled out of his car, but in fact got out of his vehicle during the traffic stop to reach in the back window to adjust his license plate. The training officer observed the complainant getting out of his vehicle. Then the officer in training got out and detained the complainant. The complainant was made aware of his action of getting out and reaching in his vehicle during the traffic stop could have been a safety concern for the officers, and they detained him to ensure they were not in any threats. The officer's actions were supported by policy. The complainant did not at any time make a comment that the handcuffs were too tight to the officer. Therefore, it is recommended this allegation against the training officer is closed, the finding of unfounded. After the traffic stop, the complainant approached the window of the training officer and asked to get the names and badges of both officers present. The officers did not provide their information, which in accordance with Columbus Division of Policy and Procedures, this is a violation as officers are required to provide identification if asked. Therefore, it is recommended the allegation is closed as sustained for both officers. And the conclusion is allegation number one, the complainant alleged that he was informed by the officer that he was pulled over due to his license plate not being visible. However, he claims it was clearly visible in his back window. The investigation revealed Officer R pulled the complainant over due to his license plate not being visible. She informed the complainant as she walked toward the car, she noticed the plate had fallen over in the back window. As the complainant's plate was not visible from Officer R's view on the cruiser, it is recommended this allegation is closed with the finding of exonerated. Allegation two, this complainant alleged during a traffic stop he was pulled out of the car and handcuffs were placed on him tightly. The investigation revealed the complainant was not pulled out of his car, but in fact the complainant got out of his car during the traffic stop to reach in the back window to adjust the plate. Officer M observed the complainant getting out of his vehicle in which he got out, detained the complainant. The complainant was made aware of his action of getting out and reaching in his vehicle during the traffic stop could have been a safety concern for the officers, and he was detained to ensure there were not any threats. The officer's actions are supported by CPD policy. The complainant did not at any time make a comment that the handcuffs were too tight to Officer M. Therefore, it is recommended this allegation is closed with the finding of unfounded. Lastly, allegation three, the complainant alleged he asked for the officers' names and badge numbers, but they did not provide him with their information. After the traffic stop, the complainant approached the window of Officer M and asked to get the names and badges of both officers present. Officer R reported it is CPD policy to provide identification if asked for it. However, stated when the complainant re-engaged after being released, she allowed Officer M to take over. Officer M reported it is policy to provide identification if asked, and he usually does so. He stated in the event he did not provide it to the complainant, it was an honest mistake. The investigation revealed the officers did not provide their information, which in accordance to CPD policy and procedures, this is a violation as officers are required to provide identification if asked. Therefore, it is recommended this allegation is closed as sustained for both officers. And our committee reviewed this complaint as well, and we move to accept findings of the AG.
All right, any questions or discussion? Okay,
I have one.
yes.
Maybe, I don't know whether you guys know this or not, but do they hold the training officer a little more accountable in these situations than the officer that's in training for these types of violations?
That I don't have an answer for you. I would only be able to probably, again, that would be data, just kind of look back, because we do know in the reports that we sustain people, that where we sustain the officer, that we are looking to see whether or not there was some type of disciplinary actions that were taken. And then the other thing we can tell you is when we're doing our investigations, we have noticed that some cases where we have found some incidents that have occurred, we were advised that some type of disciplinary action was already observed. And in some of those cases, disciplinary corrective actions was taken. And in those cases, you'll see that coming up in one of the reports where we stated that we didn't sustain them simply because there was some type of corrective action that already took place.
All right, thank you.
You can continue, Dr. Ford.
Okay, next complaint is 2023-0774. On June 12, 2023, the Department of Inspector General received a complaint alleging misconduct by Columbus police officers. The complaint alleges that on June 4, 2023, a woman was running down Fulton Avenue being chased and kicked and punched by a man. The complainant said that he called 911 twice. After the first report, the officers drove by and did not stop. 20 minutes later, he called 911 again and was told the officers contacted the woman who was assaulted, and she informed officers that she did not need help. The complainant said there was no way that the officers could have responded and talked to the victim. The Columbus DIG's investigation consists of a review of a body-worn camera, computer dispatch reports, electronic reports, officer statements, and CPD policies and procedures. The electronic report shows that the officer responding could contact the caller if needed. The review revealed the officer who responded to the scene briefly spoke to the alleged male suspect, but never spoke with the female victim. The officer left the area and responded to another run. The officer, when interviewed by the Columbus DIG, admitted he never saw the victim, nor did he speak with the caller who reported the incident, and he cleared the run as a code 2, no victim at the scene. Additionally, the investigation revealed the neighbor who made the second call to 911 could identify the suspect male and recorded video footage of the alleged assault, which could have been reviewed if the officer had made contact with the caller. Therefore, it is recommended the allegation against the officer be found as sustained. The investigation found evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation, and the actions not taken by the officer violated CPD policies, procedures, and/or law. Additionally, the responding officer told the Columbus DIG during his interview he was wearing his body-worn camera during the incident. However, no video footage was captured or recorded. The officer explained that either he forgot to turn it on or he did not push the switch twice to turn it on. The Columbus DIG concludes the officer's actions of not activating his body-worn camera during the interaction with the male subject is a violation of CPD policies and procedures. Therefore, it is recommended that a finding of sustained against the officer for not activating his body-worn camera during the interaction with the male subject. Conclusion, allegation 1, the complaint alleges that on June 4th, 2023, a victim was running down Fulton Avenue being chased, kicked, and punched by a man. The complainant said she called 911 twice requesting CPD officers. The first officer drove by and did not stop. After 20 minutes, he called again. 911 was told the officer made contact, and the woman who stated she did not need help. The complainant said there was no way the officer could have responded and talked to the victim. The investigation revealed evidence an electronic report was completed, and the report indicates the caller can be contacted if needed. Officer S. told the Columbus DIG that after briefly speaking with the alleged suspect, there was no victim, so he got in his unit and left for another run. He said he never saw the victim, nor did he speak with the caller who reported the event. He said he cleared the run as a code 2, no victim at the scene. Officer S. said, hindsight being 50-50, I should have contacted the caller, but I didn't. That's my bad. End quote. Therefore, it is recommended the allegation against Officer S. be closed with the finding sustained. The investigation found evidence that substantiated the complainant's allegation, and the actions not taken by the officer in this incident violated CPD policies, procedures, or law. Allegation number 1, Officer S. told the Columbus DIG he was wearing his body-worn camera during the incident. However, no video footage was recorded. Officer S. explained that he forgot to turn it on and did not push the switch twice. I guess it's the same allegation. So the committee reviewed this, and we moved to accept the findings of the DIG.
Second.
I have a question. So the IG's finding of sustained on the camera, was that a separate allegation, the IG?
It looks like it's just printed here twice.
Okay, but it's-
There's allegation once, it's just printed twice.
Okay, but it's the original complaint
Yes.
allegation. Okay.
Yes.
Any other questions or discussion? All right.
The IG didn't add that? That was in the complaint?
The allegation regarding the officer not activating his
Okay.
body cam.
So it is separate.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, okay.
That's okay. I'll just note for the record, the motion on 2023-0774 concerning just the allegation itself. Can we second that as a separate? Okay, great. And then can we add to that the IG's allegation, which was sustained regarding the body-worn camera policy being violated as a standalone? Can we have a second to that? All right, perfect. Thank you.
Okay, this is complaint 2023-0779. On June 13th, 2023, the Columbus Department Inspector General received a complaint alleging sexual misconduct by a Columbus police officer. Specifically, the complainant alleged her sweatpants fell down around her knees during her arrest, which she alleged is sexual assault. The Columbus DIG's investigation consists of a review of computer-aided dispatch reports and 911 dispatch audio recordings for the event. The CPD completed criminal investigative report from Internal Affairs, body-worn camera footage from the arresting officer, and CPD policies and procedures. The investigation found no evidence to substantiate the complainant's reported allegation. Therefore, it is recommended that this allegation be closed unfounded. Allegation 1, this investigation found no evidence to substantiate the complainant's allegation of a sexual assault because her sweatpants fell down around her knees during her arrest. The investigation revealed the complainant's sweatpants fell down on her knees due to her own actions of actively resisting arrest. The officers did try to fix her sweatpants, but the complainant was uncooperative and the officer transported her to Grant Hospital without further incident. Therefore, it's recommended this allegation be closed with a finding of unfounded, and our committee review this complaint and recommend approval of the findings.
Second.
Okay, any questions or discussion? Yes.
It's just one of those things that we go back to again that's been asked before. Just wanted to know why we chose unfounded versus exonerated on this one, because the police officer really had nothing to do with the woman's pants falling down. So,
What we do is when unfounded is really looking at what exactly was the allegation. And here, because initially when we got the allegation, anytime we get something that appears to possibly be of a criminal nature, we would forward that to IEB. But in this case, what she is stating is that my
Sexual
pants
assault.
fell down around my ankles, and this was, in her words,
A sexual
assault.
Okay.
So that's why we unfounded it, because they fell, we watched, but the officers did try to assist her, but she just wouldn't. So that, in this case, is the reason why we said unfounded. We wouldn't say exonerated. Exonerated would have meant that the officer had some type of interaction that caused what happened, and in this case, it didn't.
all right then, thank you.
Okay, our last one is case 2023-0828. This one is a bit lengthier. On June 22nd, 2023, the Columbus Department of Inspector General received a complaint from the complainant. The complaint alleges that she and her daughter were viciously attacked by a person who she has a protection order against. The complainant alleges the following. Number one, that she has evidence the officer knowingly knew about the protection order and made no arrest. And number two, over a week later, she had not received any calls from anyone about her case. The investigation consists of a review of body-worn camera footage for the responding officers, CAD reports, 911 Emergency Communications Center recordings, CPD robbery unit records and statements, and a statement from the sergeant with the CPD's assault unit. The investigation revealed on June 12, 2023, officers responded to a reported fight at the apartment where the complainant resided. The CAD report shows that at 9:24 p.m., a male had been beaten up by multiple men and women. Next, at 9:29, the complainant reported that she was being jumped, bleeding from her head, and advised she would need an emergency squad. Officers responded to both incidents, investigated the reported incident of the complainant, and determined a robbery had occurred, identified multiple suspects, contacted CPD's felony assault unit, and referred to the second shift CPD robbery unit. On June 28, 2023, sergeants from the felony assault unit and the robbery unit agreed to investigate the circumstances and met with the complainant and her daughter. Subsequently, on June 18, 2023, the charges were filed in the Franklin County Common Pleas Court against two individuals who reside in the apartments on 4 counts of robbery and 1 count of a violation of protection order. Based on the evidence obtained and reviewed by the Columbus DIG, concludes the officer's response to the incident are supported by CPD policies, procedures, and/or laws. Therefore, it is recommended that allegation 1 be closed with finding of exonerated against the officers. Additionally, on June 13, 2023, the complainant spoke with a detective in the robbery unit, and on June 23, 2023. Also on June 28, 2023, the complainant was interviewed at her home by 2 sergeants for a descriptive account of the event and for positive identification of the suspect. Therefore, it's recommended that the allegation 2 be closed with the finding of unfounded, as the investigation found no evidence to substantiate the complainant's allegation or any other officer's misconduct. Additionally, the investigation shows the responding officers notified the robbery unit detective of the situation. The detective declined to respond to the scene to interview the involved parties. The detective defined this incident as more of an assault rather than a robbery and advised responding patrol units to handle the investigation themselves. Subsequently, after further investigation, suspects were charged with 4 counts of robbery and a violation of protection order. The investigation revealed the complainant had injuries to her lower lip and facial injuries, which were observed by the officers when they arrived on the scene. The medical was requested and arrived at the scene to examine and evaluate the complainant. The emergency medical technicians advised the complainant had suffered a head contusion and should be examined at Grant Medical Center and was transported. The Columbus DIG concludes the detective's actions of not responding to investigate this incident violated CPD policies and procedures and has recommended the findings sustained regarding the detective's actions. Conclusions. Again, allegation 1, the complainant alleges that she and her daughter were viciously attacked by a person who she has a protection order against. The complainant alleges the officers knew about the protection order and made no arrest of the involved persons. The investigation revealed the officers' actions in response to the incident are supported by CPD policies and procedures and/or laws. Therefore, it is recommended the allegation be closed with finding exonerated against the officers. Allegation 2, the complainant alleges over a week later she received no calls from anyone about her case. The investigation found on June 13th and June 23rd of 2023, the complainant spoke with Detective A of the robbery unit. Also, the complainant was interviewed at her home by Sergeants J and M on June 28th, 2023 for a descriptive account of the event and for positive identification of the suspects. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegation be closed with the finding when founded. And onto that, we have a DIG allegation number 1. Major Crimes Bureau, Criminal Investigation Subdivision, SOP Manuals, Work Instructions, Written Orders, Chapter 2, Burglary Robbery, Section 11.02, shows that detectives will respond to crime scenes and assume investigative responsibility when requested by an officer or supervisor at a crime scene, unless the detective can articulate a compelling reason not to respond. The investigation shows that after responding officers notified the robbery unit detective of the situation, the detective declined to respond to the scene to interview any of the involved parties. The detective defined this incident as, quote, more of an assault than a robbery, end quote, and advised the responding patrol units need to handle the investigation themselves. The investigation revealed the complainant had injuries to her lower lip and facial injuries observed by the officers when they arrived on the scene. Medic was requested and arrived at the scene to treat the complainant. Medics advised the complainant had suffered a head contusion and was advised that she should be examined at Grant Medical Center and was transported. Subsequently, after further investigation, suspects were charged with 4 counts of robbery and violation of protection order. Based on this information, the Columbus DIG concludes the detective's actions of not responding to the crime scene to conduct the investigation violated CPD policies and procedures. Therefore, it is recommended a finding is sustained against Detective A's actions. And our committee has reviewed the reports and of the DIG and accept the findings.
Second.
Any questions or discussion on that?
We have to have 2 on this one, too.
Yes, because, yes, you're correct. So 2023-0828 will separate as its own motion because those first 2 allegations, one was closed as exonerated, one was unfounded. So we'll have that be the first and second on the floor. Any questions about the initial complaint? Okay, separate from that, because the IG initiated the next sustained allegations, can we have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. Any questions or discussion about the second allegation or the allegation initiated by the IG? Okay. So we have open motions on the floor for case numbers 2023-0719, 2023-0728, 2023-0742, 2023-0751, 2023-0759, 2023-0762. We have open motions on both the initial and an additional on 2023-0774. Open motion on 2023-0779, 2023-0828, plus an additional under 2023-0828. Starting first with all those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed on any of those cases? Any abstentions? All of those motions carry. Now, returning very briefly, we do have, Subcommittee 3 did complete their review and submit their summaries on case numbers 2023-0725 and 2023-0729. Board Member Younger is willing to give the summaries on those so that those 2 don't have to wait till December. Go ahead.
All right, case number 2023-0725. On June 5th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the DIG. The complainant reported calling for an officer to the home. However, when the officer arrived, he began to speak to the aggressors first, and then, when speaking to the complainant, began yelling and cussing at the complainant. The complainant reported telling the officer to leave due to not receiving assistance. The investigation consisted of the review of the CAD, body-worn camera, and the Columbus Division of Police Police Policies and Procedures. A review of the BWC revealed that the officer's conduct and demeanor was rude, discourteous, therefore being in violation of policy and procedures. It is recommended that the allegation against the officers be sustained. Focus officer, allegation 1, the complainant alleged CPD officer C's conduct and demeanor were unprofessional. He used foul language. He yelled. Based on the information and evidence obtained, the investigation revealed Officer D's conduct and demeanor was discourteous, etc. And the DIG, the Columbus DIG recommends the allegation be closed with a finding of sustained. Our subcommittee, our review committee, reviewed and we agree with the DIG. At this point, we move to accept the finding of the DIG as to case number 2023-0725.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
Oops.
Okay.
All right, then the second case here, if I can figure out how to get to it. I had it. Oh, here it is, done. Okay. Second case is 2023-0729. On June 8th, 2023, the complainant filed a complaint with the DIG alleging misconduct and rude. Wait a minute, did I just read that? No,
729.
it's 729. No, I didn't. Did I just read 729 or 725?
725 was the first one, so it should be 729.
Okay, that's correct. Okay, it just sounded the same. All right, 2023-0729. Complaint was alleging misconduct and rude behavior. The complainant stated that the officer told her that if she kept calling and making a disturbance to the police, then someone will be arrested. And however, it will not be the other individual. The investigation consisted of review of the BWC, footage, CAD materials, unit history, and CBD policy and procedures. The investigation found no evidence to substantiate the complainant's allegation that the officer's behavior was rude. Therefore, it is recommended that the allegation against the officers be closed as unfounded, as the officers were within CPD policy and procedure. The review of the BWC footage also revealed that there was no evidence to substantiate the complainant's allegation that she was told by the officers that if she kept calling and making disturbance calls that someone would be arrested and it would not be the other individual. All right, let me get to... Our review committee did review this, and we agreed with the DIG at this particular time. So we move at this point to accept the findings of the DIG as to case number 2023-0729.
Any questions or discussion? Okay.
That's it.
We have open motions on case number 2023-0725 and 2023-0729. All in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
Aye.
Those motions appear to carry, but any abstentions or objections on either of those? No? All right, that concludes the review of all the October cases. According to the agenda, November case assignments are listed. Please take a look at those and be on the lookout for those to hit your inboxes from Stephanie. Our December meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, December 5th, 2023. If there are additional items that you would like for Stephanie to add to the agenda, please try to send those within the next 2 weeks. Does anyone else have any other issues for the good of the
I
order?
would like to say thank you personally to Stephanie. She helped, I think, the two of us resolve some issues that we were having with our email because it had been a while since I had been able to get on my email. So I really appreciate her help.
Noted. All right, if no one else has anything further, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this meeting.
So moved.
Any seconds?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Please say aye. Meeting adjourned.
What is this?